In this video, I'm going to be teaching you 10 ways that you can make your instant coffee taste better than it does right now. Some of these methods I've learned from other coffee experts, while others I've learned from viral TikTok videos. It's kind of embarrassing to say out loud, but most of them I've learned just by making coffee over the last 5 years. Some of them are easy and you can implement them instantly, pun definitely was intended there, while others will be a little bit more difficult and may require you to go and buy some additional accessories. But one thing I can guarantee is that if you watch this video in its full entirety, you will learn something and your coffee will definitely taste better. First, let's start with tip number 1, and that is using the right measurements. This is gonna be for my homies that think their instant coffee tastes a little too weak. Let's start by taking a look at the back of your instant coffee package and looking at that suggested recipe. Most of the time, this recipe is going to be 1 teaspoon of instant coffee to 1 cup of water. Now, when you're following a cooking recipe, that 1 cup of water is typically going to refer to 8 fluid ounces. But this is where things get a little weird. Specifically, when you're referring to coffee, the American cup measuring system says that 1 cup of water is not 8 fluid ounces. It's actually 6 fluid ounces. American measuring systems literally suck. So chances are you don't have weak tasting instant coffee and you're just using too much water. So next time, try using less water. Told you, some of these tips are going to be extremely easy. Moving on to tip number 2, using quality water. Your traditional cup of coffee is like 98% water. So if your water sucks, your coffee is also going to suck. I'm not saying that you have to go buy a reverse osmosis water purifier or any fancy stuff like that. Rather, just make some simple considerations. I'm gonna show you 3 ways that you can improve your water quality, starting with using a simple filter like this. This is by far the easiest way to improve your water quality because a simple water filter can remove a lot of impurities like chlorine and lead. I like to run my tap water through a Brita filter like this. Just remember to periodically change the filter and you'll be kosher. Now, if you don't trust me, which you probably shouldn't because we're just meeting each other, I understand. But I still think that you should try this one experiment. And this is gonna tie into the second way to get better water quality at home, and that is just by buying it from the grocery store. You wanna start by buying 3 different spring or mineral waters from the grocery store. Each of these waters are gonna have 3 different mineral contents in it, and if you make 3 coffees using the same instant coffee, just switching the water and taste them, you're gonna see that they all taste completely different. It's actually insane. If you like science, buckle up because we're gonna get into minerals and water and stuff. There are 4 minerals responsible for altering the flavors of your coffee: calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Calcium and magnesium are going to contribute to water hardness. Increasing this is going to add sweetness and structure to your coffee. And not having enough is going to make your coffee taste weak and boring, frankly. The sodium and the potassium are going to contribute to your water's alkalinity. Too little and your coffee is going to taste acidic and sour, while too much, it's probably going to taste like chalky and flat. To be honest with you, most of the spring and mineral water that you can buy from the grocery store will literally tell you these mineral contents on the back of the packaging. And this is what kind of makes coffee so much fun, because you could be using the same coffee beans, but then use 2 different waters and get 2 completely different tasting cups, one that you might really enjoy and one that you might not like at all. Which brings me to my 3rd way of getting better quality water at home, and that is kind of just becoming a chemist. You can go to the grocery store and buy some of this. This is distilled water. It's the purest H2O that you can buy. There's no other minerals in it at all. And then you can add the minerals to it. This is not sponsored, but there's companies out there that make perfect brewing mineral packets. So you add one of these packets into your distilled water and it gives you the perfect mineral makeup to brew coffee. I almost feel like this is one of the most important tips that you can learn in the coffee world in general. I know this is an instant coffee video, but this applies to all coffee. Moving on to tip number 3, while we're already on the topic of water, let's talk about using the right water temperature. This is for my homies that say their coffee tastes bitter or burnt. It's probably because you're burning it. Instant coffee is extremely fragile, and if you use water that's too hot, you are going to burn it and it's going to taste bad because of it. Here's 2 ways to fix this. Don't start by adding boiling water directly to your instant coffee. Instead, add some cold water, dissolve the instant coffee, and then add the boiling water to that. That way the coffee is not going to burn. Alternatively, if you have a kettle where you can set custom temperatures to, just set it to 180 degrees Fahrenheit and brew with that temperature water the entire time. Let's move on to tip number 4, and this is where we get a little culinary. I know this is gonna sound weird, but don't judge me. By adding a small pinch of salt to your coffee, it cuts the bitterness and it really brings out some of the sweetness of your coffee. Just remember that we're not making pasta water here. All you need is a very, very small pinch. You don't want to make pasta water. You don't want it to taste salty as the sea. You think I'm crazy? Don't knock it till you try it, especially if you're making anything with a flavoring like a salted mocha or a salted caramel latte, salted vanilla. For tip number 5, we're gonna be talking about how to sweeten your coffee intelligently. Look, I don't judge. If you like your coffee sweet, great. I also like my coffee sweet, but there are different types of sweeteners that you should know about, when you should use them and when you shouldn't, and the different characteristics of these things. We're gonna explore some of the main sweeteners outside of just the plain white sugar, but let's talk about white sugar first. This stuff is straightforward. It's gonna dissolve easily and it gives you a clean sweetness. But if you're after something with a deeper flavor, that's where the brown sugar is gonna come into play. Brown sugar is just white sugar with molasses in it, and it's gonna give you this richer caramel-like flavor that's great to pair with darker, deeper roasts, or if you're making something like a mocha or like a salted caramel latte, really anything that you're looking for a deeper flavor on. Then you have honey, which is sweet, but not just sweet. It also brings this floral element. This one is perfect for more nuanced flavors. Maybe if you're gonna pair this with spices, like a very common drink is a café miel, which is a Spanish drink where you combine honey and cinnamon. It's a beautiful combination, a beautiful and delicious pairing, which I recommend to try if you haven't already. Plus, I think honey is a great option if you're looking for something a little bit like healthier and natural, because it comes from bees, you know? And the 4th type of sweetener that I like to mention is maple syrup. Yes, the pancake hero can be your coffee's best friend too. I think that maple syrup is a crucial element, especially in autumn and fall. Like, it brings this like woodsy kind of autumn sweetness that's hard to beat. Putting maple syrup in a pumpkin spice latte, game changer. Really, it is. It just gives you a different flavor than like brown sugar and white sugar would. I think each sweetener is good in its own ways, but I think it's best to experiment with these things. Figure out which one sings to your palate, and remember to always have balance with it. You don't want it to be too sweet, and you don't want it to be not sweet enough. We want this to complement the coffee. We don't want it to overpower the coffee. Of course, unless that's what you want. Tip number 6 is all about adding some zest. Adding a bit of citrus zest to your coffee can work wonders in brightening and freshening up that flavor. Each type of citrus brings its own unique characteristics, so let's go over the main 4 citrus fruits that you can add. Starting with the one that's most popular best friend is tequila, lime. Lime has a sharp and tangy profile. A little bit of lime zest can add a surprising, refreshing twist to your coffee, especially if you're doing like a cold brew or an iced coffee. It could give it a little, zing. I would say lemon zest is like a ray of sunshine to your coffee. It's vibrant, it's a little sweet, and it's perfect for cutting through bitterness of coffee. I think it pairs exceptionally well with lighter roasted coffees, so if you have a lighter roasted instant coffee, lemon is your go-to. The sweetness of orange zest is like classic. It's in all sorts of desserts, and it pairs super well with coffee. It brings a warm yet like familiar citrus note, and I think it enhances a lot of natural flavors that are found in coffee. One other thing about orange zest is that it works super well with other spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. If you're one of those people that like things more on the interesting end and want to spice things up, that's where grapefruit comes in. Grapefruit is slightly bitter with a hint of sweetness. I think this adds so much depth and texture and mouthfeel to your coffee that you wouldn't normally get. Just like the salt and just like adding sweetness to your coffee, all of these things should be used in moderation. Like, you do not need a lot. Just a few zests is all you need. Moving on to tip number 7. Let's play around with the texture of our coffee. The way your coffee feels in your mouth can be just as important as the way that it tastes. It's kind of weird. Here's 3 ways that you can play with the texture of your coffee to enhance it a little bit more. First up, frothing it. The famous frothed / whipped / Dalgona coffee is famous for a reason. To make Dalgona coffee, whip equal parts of instant coffee, sugar, and hot water until they become creamy and light in texture like this. Then spoon that froth over cold or hot milk, and it's like a cloud of coffee sitting on top of your milk, offering a creamy texture with literally every single sip. For method number 2, we need to break out the machinery and blend it. This is great if you like cold and refreshing drinks because this is basically a coffee smoothie. All you gotta do is take some milk, ice, and a sweetener of your choice and blend all of that stuff together inside of a blender, and what you're left with is this Frappuccino. What's great about this is that you can substitute this sweetener with anything that you'd like. So if you have vanilla syrup or caramel syrup or white mocha syrup or chocolate syrup, you could use any of those things and have a different flavored coffee smoothie. Method number 3 is making a shaken espresso style drink. This is great if you want to replicate that brown sugar shaken espresso drink that you'd normally get from Starbucks and pay like $19 for. This is gonna do the same job. In a cocktail shaker like this, I'm using a Boston shaker, but you can use any cocktail shaker that you have at home. Add a little bit of instant coffee, a little bit of sugar, and a small amount of water. Oh yeah, add ice too. If you don't have ice, then it's gonna explode. And then you'll want to seal it and then shake it as hard as you can until it's frothy. Then from there, all you gotta do is top it off with the milk of your choice, and boom, you have a shaken espresso, and you can customize the flavors that you use, but I would say the most common is that brown sugar and cinnamon variation that we just made. Tip number 8 is gonna sound a little obvious, but it's about using milk. Adding milk to your instant coffee can literally transform it. I don't wanna hear these comments of people saying, bro, why'd you add milk to your coffee? It's not even coffee if you don't drink your coffee black. Shut up. Everybody is tired of hearing all of that nonsense, okay? Adding milk to your coffee in different ratios can open up the possibilities of drinks that you can make. I think milk does 2 things extremely well. The first thing that it does is it acts like a buffer between your tongue and your coffee, and it's buffering bitterness. The second thing that it does is it's a great base for certain sauces and syrups. Let me explain. Say we have this white chocolate sauce. If I put this white chocolate sauce directly into plain black coffee and try to mix it together, it's not gonna mix very well. It's gonna be grainy and it's not gonna be homogeneous. Versus if I take that same white chocolate sauce and I put that into a latte with a milk base, it's gonna dissolve much better. To be honest with you, I think tip 9 is the most fun tip here, and it's making coffee ice cubes. Yeah. Making coffee ice cubes is so much fun because it helps your coffee not get diluted by ice. Not only this, but it's so easy to make ice cubes with instant coffee, and it's super cheap too. Not only is it great to put coffee ice cubes inside of your coffee, but I find so many different ways to use these ice cubes. Like, I'll put these coffee ice cubes in my matcha latte, and it's like a great combination of coffee and matcha. Try it next time. Let me know in the comments what you think if you do try it. It's actually so easy to make coffee ice cubes, and I'm not gonna give you exact measurements because some ice cube trays are ginormous and some of them are very small. So just make enough instant coffee that you think will fill that ice cube tray that you have, and then let it sit in the freezer overnight, and then the next morning, boom, you have coffee ice cubes. Bonus tip, if you have a cool ice cube tray that can make ducks or something, that'd be really cool. Moving on to the final tip, tip number 10, and it's just to keep trying different instant coffees. If you've tried the previous 9 tips and you still can't get your instant coffee to taste as good as maybe you'd want it to, you might just have a bad instant coffee. You might just have a dud. Go to the grocery store, try different instant coffees. I will make an entirely separate video ranking supermarket instant coffees on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know which ones to buy and which ones maybe to stay away from. But I will say one of my favorite instant coffees to use, no, this is not sponsored, is Juan Valdez Colombian. It tastes great, it's affordable, and you can get it at a lot of different places. This is what it looks like. Calvin and I both thank you for watching the video, and if you learned something, let me know. But until the next one, see ya. Bye. Heavy bulldog.